CCDA. I'm Christina Ford, the Advocacy and Communications Lead here. And I have the privilege of joining my friends Mary, Nelson, and Yvonne here to talk to us a little bit about their recent experience with our book club that we did on We Cry Justice. And so I'm going to have them introduce themselves, and then I'll ask a few questions to hear kind of what their experience was like, and then also subsequently them going to the Poor People's Campaign March that happened in June this year. So do you want to kick us off, Yvonne, and kind of introduce yourself?
Well, I'm Yvonne Rogers, and I'm in Chesapeake, Virginia. I'm a retired school teacher, middle school teacher, been retired a year, and I've been involved with volunteering with the homeless through our Urban Renewal Center.
Cool. And how about you, Mary?
Well, I'm Mary Nelson, and longtime retired from Bethel New Life, and one of the early people with CCDA, and had the joy of co-facilitating this book club and with Vatrisa. And it came about because I was thrashing about for a way to CCDA to get involved with the Poor People's Campaign and with this particular event coming up. And thanks to Christina, who thought that this was a wonderful way to get CCDA involved. So I'm grateful that this is a way, and I think for future kind of things, it gives us another idea of how we can do other kinds of things in ways that are responsive to some of the issues and so forth going on.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you, guys. And I wanted to hear a little bit about, Yvonne, how did you get kind of involved, or how did you hear about the book club, and what interested you about it?
Well, I've been doing the book club through Faith and Prejudice, which is a Facebook group, and they have a book club, Double Click. And I've been doing the book club with them. And I think it was also one of those going to school situations where one of the facilitators was going to school and working, and was like, came across your invite and was like, hey, if you want to do the next book with them, do the book with them. And it gave, them a break at Double Click. And I was like, okay, let's see what this book is about.
And that's cool. I like the synergies there between like your group and them kind of wanting to be. I know Faith and Prejudice and Imani and some of them are part of it that have been in CCDA, which is cool. And Mary, I wanted to hear kind of your perspective on why you wanted to do this book specifically. I know you mentioned a little bit about the Poor People's Campaign, but were there other pieces of it that you thought were good for CCDA? Oh, you're on mute, I think.
Again, We Cry Justice is so rooted in the issues of the Poor People's Campaign, because obviously it's written by folks who are involved, but also issues that we at CCDA touch on. And so I just thought it was a wonderful way to make that connection between CCDA and the Poor People's Campaign.
Awesome. Well, what were some of the takeaways you guys had kind of going through the book club together? What were some things that kind of came up as y'all were talking over those 4 weeks of kind of getting into the book?
Well, it opened up a lot for me. I mean, you know about the different problems, but you don't realize that there are groups working on those problems. And so that's what was interesting for me.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
But it was fabulous. Yvonne was just a fabulous participant, and it was the three of us who delved into these issues together in a way, and that again was so helpful to me, because I'm so into this. I need a better perspective. I need to hear more where other people are coming from, and this was a wonderful way to be able to share in that and to broaden my perspective and understanding of where people are coming from.
Was there like a certain chapter or topic that really like came to life for you guys while y'all were talking, or something that really challenged you guys?
Hmm. That's an interesting question.
I think one of the things was out of our faith commitments, activism, pro, proactive responses to things as opposed to simply reactive. That our faith calls us to be in the mix, calling for justice, crying for justice in positive kinds of ways. So that was always the question: how do we move from from sitting on the sidelines and bemoaning the fact that this injustice is happening into not only not negatively getting involved in the struggle, but having a positive vision. Here's what God's calling us to do, and here are some ways it can work. It can happen.
That's good. Yeah, I like that, like delineation between being like proactive versus reactive. Obviously, we do both as people who are active in our faith and fighting for justice, but often we forget about the importance of being proactive. Like, how do we assess what's happening in our communities? How do we address the root kind of issues there? So I appreciate that. What were some of the experiences? I wanted to hear a little bit around the Poor People's Campaign March. I know both of you guys went there, and what was that like? Maybe someone can paint us a picture of what it felt like to be there, the environment, the setting, and then kind of share your own experience.
Well, I had gone to March a couple of years ago. I guess it was 2020, and with Al Sharpton. And so I was used to a large crowd. That's one thing. It is a very overwhelming situation if you've never been in a large crowd. So that part I was ready for. But I think what was very impressive for me, at least coming from Virginia and where we are, our bus was totally scholarshiped by some of the unions, the local unions.
Yeah.
They scholarshiped us for the bus, for water, snacks, for our lunch. It was like, and I was totally unprepared for that. And then when we got there to run into Mary, it was just total coincidence. It was just like I'm like trying to wiggle my way through the like little maze they had going for the section we were going into, and I look up, I'm like, that looks like Mary. I'm like, Mary? And she's like, Yvonne! It was just really a great experience to be able to be there with somebody that I had been sharing with for the last month or so, so that was like really, really good.
That's neat. I didn't realize that was coincidence. I thought y'all had planned to meet. Cool.
Not at all. We were planning on emailing each other after we got back to say how things were. And then it was like, no, there she is right here.
Well, let me just describe a little bit. There were over 100,000 people there. There were busloads and people from all different states and situations. It spread out. We were up in the front because I had just had a problem with a meniscus tear. So I was using a cane or a walker. So that got me up into the front. In some sense, because we, from Bethel Church, we had probably about 20 people who came to the march. And they were so far back that I never got to see. I got to see a few of them, but not the whole group, because you were kind of stuck into where you were. But the exciting thing about it was the sense of the refrain, and we won't be silent anymore. The sense that what was up on the stage, what people were sharing, was a sense of this was a hope-filled, even though everybody was describing the problems, it was somehow hope-filled. And of course, Reverend Barber and Liz Theo Harris are in between everything, are cheering us on. But we would all come out, and we won't be silent anymore. And the sense that both understanding better what the issues were from the mouths of people who were frontline, the workers, low-wage workers, and the homeless, and all the different groups, was a wonderful sense, and that's what Poor People's Campaign does so well. In that sense, it illuminates the voices of those who aren't usually heard. And secondly, the sense that we can make a difference, even though it's really tough and things are not, but we can, with our voices and our participation, because this was to come to the rally and to the polls. So that the follow-up is us getting our I was going to say something, our bodies in action. And not only get us to the polls, but get the other people, because 140 million low wealth people, and the data that they showed, that they shared with us, said that if we got even 50, that the most undervoting group is this low wealth group. And if we got at least 50% of them to go to the polls, we could make a difference in all of the states where the margins were very thin, in terms of pushing for the kinds of issues that we cared about. So it was hope-filled. It was great music. There was just fabulous music in the middle of it all. And to hear Martin Luther King's daughter, Bernice, speak, and Cornel West sharing, and have him so explicitly be filled with talking about love and talking about us coming together around that was an exciting part of it for me. And then, of course, to be able to sit in that front handicap section and to bump into Yvonne. But before I bumped into Yvonne, I was getting ready to go in there, and I had a chance to have a long talk with Shane Claiborne and with from Rutba House in North Carolina, Jonathan Wilson Hartgrove, and to bump up with a number of other people who I associate with CCDA that were there, but who have wider spectrums than just that. So it was really a meeting of people who care about what's going on, who aren't going to stop, we aren't going to be silent anymore, and coming together to say, we have got to really keep working on this for the long haul.
I love it. Thank you guys so much for sharing. And I think it's cool to see kind of the beginnings of this kind of book club, but then how it was part of a bigger picture, right, of people wanting to see justice come to, especially people who are in under-resourced communities. Obviously, that's something we're passionate about at CCDA. So I really love the ideas of like the refreshment to your spirit and your faith, like being there, but also just kind of the encouragement. I think we all kind of need that battle cry where we're like, there are a lot of other people who care about this too, and push forward. So thank you guys so much for sharing your story, and I hope it's encouraging for other people who are looking to continue to be involved and continue to move forward in kind of the ways they intersect justice and their faith.